Arsenal 1, Bournemouth 2. Bournemouth boosting their hopes of European football. They're in 8th. And they're looking good for it. Peter Donaldson. What a victory for them. The first time they have won at the Emirates.
Is that right?
Just so you know as well, they're looking good for Europe because European football for next season goes all the way down to 16th in the Premier League.
That'll be absolutely fine.
They have to be very, very poor to miss out now, don't they, Marcus?
Absolutely right.
Yeah. 10th down to 16th inclusive all go in the Conference League this season.
It's the European Super League.
It's incredible.
Through the back door, isn't it?
They'll be playing Chelsea every week.
I tell you what, though, it was great for Bournemouth, and I think that there was a temptation to think, well, Arsenal, they've
done it again.
They've done it again.
Every season recently has just ended with them just falling off a cliff.
There, yeah, but you thought, okay, PSG to come. Well, they're going to finish second. Blah blah blah. Suddenly, there's a little bit of doubt creeping in about where they might finish. It seems very, very unlikely. I think it's still mathematically possible for them not to finish in the Champions League position. So it'd be quite the turnaround if Spurs were the representatives in the Champions League next season and not Arsenal from North London. They
basically need 2 wins to qualify for the Champions League on their own terms. I think that's what people are basically saying. But Villa's last 3 games are very winnable. Forest could turn something around. Chelsea as well. Everyone's sort of sneaking in, I suppose.
Yeah, but Arsenal, it's just not what they want. I mean, they're only 3 points above Manchester City now. And again, I understand we're in the business end of the season, but it wasn't great. I get the fact that their focus is on PSG. And I know Arteta said about the result, it's created a lot of anger, frustration and rage and disappointment. We're gonna use all that come Wednesday. But Luke, it's a bit of a sloppy result. I don't think in looking at the PSG game, I don't think this will have much of a bearing at all. As we found, people were saying with regard to Inter ahead of Barcelona.
Momentum, Marcus, momentum.
Yeah, I know, but people say, well, Inter hasn't scored for a few, and then they go and score 3 at Barcelona. I'm just looking at Arsenal. The last thing they want is to have to exert themselves for the last few Premier League games to make sure that they finish.
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, I'll take issue with what Pete said about them dropping off a cliff towards the end of the season. I mean, last season they were brilliant at the end of the season. They won 16 of their last 18 league games. They narrowly went out to Bayern Munich in the Champions League.
All right, the season before that then.
Okay, I can't actually remember the season before.
He'll just keep going back until he's right.
I was at the game on Saturday night. It was, I understand what you're saying, Marcus, but it was like a really odd occasion, by which I mean that everyone there, I think maybe I'm imagining it, but I felt like I could even detect it walk into the ground. It was like people walking there out of duty rather than kind of anything else, because it's, you've got a season ticket, or you've managed to get a ticket for what is a really big club and quite a difficult place to get tickets for, but really you're in this weird interregnum between these two massive games, and so it felt a bit like. It just felt a bit flat. And then I also thought, and there was probably other neutral people at the stadium, but I was certainly the only neutral person, all the people sitting around me. I did feel a bit like, for the first half, everyone was a bit like, let's just get this done. Right. Let's just get this out of the way. Then they score in the first half and they go into half-time 1-0 and everyone's just like, okay. And Jim, who I was with, actually said to me, Arsenal at the moment,
they don't hold on to leads, do they?
This will be 4-0 because Bournemouth have wrapped it in, or it'll be 1-1, right? And I was like, yeah, I see what you're saying about that. It actually got a lot worse for Arsenal than the 1-0, with the exception of Declan Rice, who I thought was excellent, just everywhere again. I mean, he's outstanding.
Yeah.
Nothing seems to affect him.
No.
Whether if Arsenal are off the boil a bit, or they're like you said, they can't hold on to a lead, or they're doing these things where they're conceding goals to set pieces, which they have done a lot. Rice either seems to always be able to generate an amazing performance, always covers all the ground, the run for his goal was amazing, but everyone else seemed to be a bit kind of, this is a cliche, and maybe you guys can push back on it. It felt to me like they didn't want to get injured. It felt to me like they didn't want to snap into a tackle. They didn't want to get first to the ball. And once Bournemouth started generating some momentum, it felt to me like Iraola was almost a bit like, hang on,
there's something here.
Yeah, and so he puts Semenyo on just after. I think he put Semenyo on just about 2 minutes before they scored their first goal, which comes from a throw-in after Semenyo bursts down the right and someone tracks him and tackles him. Everyone cheers the tackle because it was basically the first fucking tackle Arsenal done in the second half. From the throw-in, they score anyway. But you could see Bournemouth just going, we can actually get a famous win here, right?
Which is why I think that was, for me, for Arsenal's sake, there's ways of kind of playing that out. You still keep your foot on the ball. I thought that they just looked very sloppy. It was like it was the last day of the season, nothing to play
massively
for.
Like that. Massively.
Yeah,
like that.
And that's why I was sort of a bit like, what else are they playing at here? I understand it's very, very difficult, but you look at their running. I mean, Liverpool away. I understand Liverpool are off the boil, but you've still got to go to Anfield. They've got Newcastle, who are fighting for Champions League as well. Fortunately for them, Arsenal, they have their Southampton voucher on the last day of the season. So, I mean, look, why would I be worried about Arsenal in Champions League? But it just, to me, they might add an extra little complication.
No, they're not going to drop out the top 5. That's not going to happen.
I don't think they will.
That's not going to happen. I'm telling you now. We had an argument about it on WhatsApp yesterday. I'm happy to rehash that argument now. It's not going to happen.
I don't think anybody thinks it will, but I'm just saying that you just don't want to open the door a crack for any kind of complications and all that kind of stuff.
That's a fair comment.
Do you not think that like Declan Rice always looks so good in football matches for Arsenal? Certainly in this part of the season where they just can't, they don't really have a lot of firepower up front. He's the only player who has kind of a free role to a certain extent. Arsenal are so kind of like playing within themselves and they look sloppy because sometimes the system dictates that Arteta's got them so-called well drilled that if you get the ball in a certain position and you expect a player to be in the position that you have been told someone's going to be in that next 1 minute of time and space, and if they're not, you just sort of lose your loaf a little bit. They play so rigidly.
They were really rigid in the last kind of half an hour of that game against Bournemouth. It felt it's just one of those ones when you're at a stadium and everyone around you's like, they're not going to score it. They're not going to do anything here.
They're not expressive, are they?
They weren't moving the ball anywhere near quickly enough. I got to the point where I was thinking, there is and I understand they've got players missing, right? And you could see actually by the way, who they bring on. Sterling looks completely done. Zinchenko and Nwaneri, who's a young player, who's had his moments, but
but that proves the system isn't there. Then the system isn't good enough.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. All I mean is they just don't seem to currently have players who can come on and affect a game.
Yeah, which is why if you look who's left in the Champions League, turn our attention to that. Barcelona, we know what their attacking lineups like. Inter, I think, are pretty well balanced across the field. PSG, they've been the team of the tournament, you might argue, so far. You compare that to Arsenal, obviously Arsenal very good defensively, they've got a decent keeper, but they don't look as well as good across the pitch. And even if you did bring some of their injured players back, I think you do look at that squad and you think, my goodness, I know it's been said many times before, but it really is quite stark how they really need to strengthen in the summer in a big way.
They do, because they've got, if you look at who they've got out at the moment, going into this PSG game, they've got Jesus is obviously out.
Yeah.
Havertz is out. Yeah. Gabriel's out. Jorginho's out, who I maybe I overrate him a bit, but all things being considered, I would have played Jorginho in the first game against PSG.
Yeah, I think. Jorginho or Partey. I mean, if you again looking at Arsenal,
Partey's a big miss as well.
Yeah, and he was in there against Bournemouth. But again, you look at when Man City, they flash to the bench and you've got Rodri there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a miss, and obviously Haaland as well, and as one or two other teams do that. Again with Arsenal, you're going to go, Havertz and Jesus. I look at them and they really do need to strengthen in the summer. And again, I'm saying the bleeding obvious there. I understand that. But these are the moments against Bournemouth where they need something just to kind of get the crowd up a bit or just a little something. And you think, where's that going to come from, really?
But they also have a situation, a really big issue at the moment, I think, with Martin Odegaard.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, with the exception of when they just knocked Ipswich over and he was able to flat track bully his way around, I cannot remember the last time I've seen him play well for Arsenal. And given the players they've also got out, he's absolutely key. Like he was, he kind of did pretty well in the first half against Bournemouth. Like, because Bournemouth weren't, I think Bournemouth were a little bit overawed, and then Arsenal were able to do their thing, and he plays that great ball through and Declan Rice scores. Apart from that, he looks so gun shy. Yeah. He won't strike a ball with his right foot anyway. His left foot, he doesn't seem to be able to use that well. Jim was saying he wonders if he's carrying an injury or something, but he looks like he's not able to affect a game. And it's kind of, well, it wasn't okay because they lost the game, but you can kind of get away with that against Bournemouth, maybe. You can't get away with that against that PSG midfield. So I was really disappointed in them. their season is they could get knocked over pretty easily against PSG. All right, there's no disgrace in that, of course. Getting to the semi-final of the Champions League is decent.
Yeah.
But you're looking down the barrel now of what Peter alluded to at the start of the show. The season's just going out with a whimper now. And they're going to come to fifth, third maybe, and that's going to be that. They're going to basically, there's a really good chance, although we both agree they're not going to drop out the top 5, there's a really reasonable chance they could finish third in what has effectively been a 2-horse race this year. Maybe a 1-horse race, but they look the next best likely, as they have done the last couple of seasons, and they could come third.
You look at Odegaard. I think the only reason why he's still in the side is because he's captain. Like that's the difficult thing, isn't it? I mean, we've spoken before that it doesn't. I think most people in this room sort of think that the captaincy is over.
There's only 3 people in this room, Peter. So you don't need to get 2. Most people in this room.
Most people in this room, think that the captaincy, that people make too big a deal out of it. But I think when you're not playing well, it does become a bit of a longer shadow. And you said about like Arsenal having a good goalkeeper. I think the last few weeks, he has shown that he doesn't like to invite pressure on his own side at a time where they could really not do that sort of thing. I think he was at fault for the winner. He sort of over moved, so to speak. So I think for that level of squad, you would probably think. I honestly think that Arteta might be sort of thinking that, well, maybe I fought so hard to get him in.
Yeah.
Has he repaired that quite as much as I needed him to for that level of team? I would say no.
My take would be that. Is he partly to blame for the fact they keep conceding goals from set pieces? Because you think of like a goalkeeper having an organisational role to play, he has to take some responsibility for that because they've come undone from set pieces. But if you look at the clean sheets record, it's good. You look at the distribution, it's decent. I mean, it's not up there with the best goalkeepers, but it's decent. Passes into the final third from a goalkeeper, Pickford is miles ahead. I mean, I guess it's just a big hallmark of how he plays. But Ray is not that far. I mean, he's quite far behind Pickford, but he's not far behind other goalkeepers around. When they look back on this season, Arsenal, a big part of it is going to be why they've conceded so many goals from these kind of set piece areas. When you think about what Pete said earlier about the fact that Arteta has got a reputation now for drilling his teams and being like systematic. Like, how does one explain that?
Yeah, it's a good point. One I suppose I hadn't thought of. I still think of that save against, was it Villa?
Yeah,
where he got up. But it was a great win for Bournemouth, and Bournemouth themselves have had a good season. They were pretty spectacular for the first half of the season, or maybe slightly more, and their form did drop off. Some thought that might happen, and it did. But this was such a big statement win for them because they can still qualify for Europe if that result in the FA Cup final goes their way. And I think I was pleased for them because, again, it's a statement result, it's a marquee result, and at a time of the season when people were kind of sort of beginning to forget about that brilliant first half of the season and so on and so forth. This is a nice little nugget for them to a little tasty morsel.
But I mean, it's a bit rich you saying that, given that they've very recently beaten your beloved Fulham, which is not easily done, is it? So they're on a bit of a good run.
That is true.
Squeaking past Fulham 1-0 at home, that doesn't go unnoticed.
Not by me, it doesn't. So a lot of the chat was: is this a big grand plan from the pals that be at Bournemouth? They were so good, and whenever people were talking about Bournemouth in that sort of early mid part of the season, it was always, how are they going to keep their players? We'll show you how we're going to keep them. We're going to drop off. People are going to forget about us, and then and then Semenyo and his big long throw-in suddenly pops up, and you go, oh yeah. They've got a very talented bunch of players there. So it'd be great for Bournemouth if they can indeed get into European competition. But time and results will tell, of course. Speaking of Europe, Chelsea beat Liverpool 3-1 yesterday. Currently fifth. Chelsea gave the Premier League winners a guard of honour at Stamford Bridge. The home fans booed it.
I was about to say, fair to say Chelsea fans weren't fully on board with the idea of giving a guard of honour to other teams.
I don't think they were ever going to be on board with that. But it was a big win for Chelsea. I was at Stamford Bridge when they beat Everton the previous week 1-0, and it was very uninspiring, to be quite frank. Yeah. Jackson took his goal really well in that game. They didn't create that much. It was a bit stale. It was a bit pedestrian. And in the second half, Everton, on another day, may well have scored. I mean, I understand it's a David Moyes Everton and they are playing one of the big sides, so them getting a result away from home against them is probably quite unlikely, as history dictates. But it wasn't great, and there are it's huge talk of on the terraces at Stamford Bridge that they're just a bit bored of Maresca's style of play. They're kind of a bit fed up with it, and so on and so forth. So I think this result was really needed. Cole Palmer back among the goals, albeit a penalty, but still it counts, and a good performance from him is just what they wanted down there. Because you say about Arsenal's season's kind of drifting. Chelsea, obviously, they've got Champions League spots to play for. They've got the Europa Conference League. That's in the bag. That's safe. As it has been all season. So there was a bit of there was a concern down there that if they didn't finish in the Champions League, it would be a bit like, well, what for next season then?
It'd be hugely disrespectful to Djurgårdens, by the way, we don't mind me saying.
Why am I
saying
disrespecting
it's in the bag?
them?
So it's in the bag.
Yeah. No, I wasn't just disrespecting them. I was also saying that they're going to beat whoever they play in the final. And I'm including Anthony, who scored another worldie on the weekend, and his Real Betis team.
I can't watch Anthony play football. I just can't do it.
Mate, you should have seen that goal he
Absolute
scored.
peach.
Yeah.
Cut inside, curl it into top left-hand corner.
It was a beauty.
If you had said to me...
Even Gianni Lo Celso scored a beauty in that game.
Oh, I like him, though. If you had said to me, Anthony scored a goal, can you please just describe it without seeing it? Yeah. That's exactly what I would have said. It's the only type of goal he scores.
Actually, yeah.
Well, anyway, but what do you think about Chelsea at the moment then, Luke? They needed a result like this.
So I think that it's no coincidence that for the first time in quite a while, Cole Palmer's done well and played well and looking like everything can go through him again, and Chelsea look good. But I would also say that there's a natural regression from Liverpool after what's happened.
Oh, I mean, Liverpool have dropped off massively.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that they've also now won the league.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm not saying they weren't trying or they didn't want to win, but it's ideal, isn't it?
But you saw Van Dijk, the way he celebrated that goal. It was like, there you go.
But
Bit of cheer.
If you said to Chelsea, you need to, your season's slightly drifting, you need to try and protect this top 5 position if you can, and you've got to play Liverpool, when do you want to play them? Well, they would have said, we want to play them straight after they've won the league, thanks very much. And they were able to do that. Palmer was excellent. Gary Neville went a little bit over the top in the commentary. I don't know if you heard that about. See when Palmer, for the first goal, Palmer shrugged off a Liverpool midfield player, kind of rolled him and burst through the midfield. And Gary Neville was talking about it like it was the best move it's ever, like it was prime Zidane or something. I was like, I mean, attacking midfield players do that quite a lot. Gary Neville literally said, words cannot describe how good that is from Cole Palmer.
Yeah, he's got to inject a bit of life into the broadcast.
I mean, that's your job. You have to
literally
describe
your job.
it.
Yeah.
Please do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, again, like Chelsea have been a bit sort of pedestrian of late, although, I mean, they're in the positions fair enough, and Liverpool obviously have dropped off. It shouldn't fall on Gary Neville's shoulders to try and inject a bit of life into the tie, but obviously...
Well, Cole Palmer was doing it himself.
Obviously, Cole Palmer.
And I suppose he came kind of as dangerously close to Cole Palmer ever comes to having a penalty saved. Because Alisson did get quite close to it. But But look, to me, with this current team... And I thought Enzo Fernandez was really good as well, by the way. But for this team, as they are at the moment, Palmer's really, really important. Everything runs through him. The team's basically built around him. And for him to hit his straps now, it shows what they're capable of. But I guess it just depends whether he can do that for the rest of the season. I mean, I'm not really looking that much into his Conference League performances because... it's on the same time as Europa League, and we all watch the Europa League instead, so we haven't seen a massive amount of it, and he's not up against much. But they to protect this top 5 position, they need him to be good for the rest of the season, particularly when they play Newcastle away, for example. Yeah. So I thought he was good, and I thought Chelsea were good.
Do you think he's been buoyed by the fact that this week Chelsea have signed a deal with a Dubai-based property company to build 1,400 luxury apartments in Dubai? And there will be Chelsea branding slapped all over the outside of the complex. A Chelsea Lion Beach is going to be a part of this. A 5-a-side pitch on the roof, and the firm said that their logo on the Chelsea shirts will be for the last few games of the season. Is that the kind of thing that the modern footballer gets a little bit of a swagger in their stride about?
I mean, it's certainly romantic, isn't it?
It is.
Certainly tap into the romance of why you started playing football as a kid. Maybe you're right, Marcus. Maybe Cole Palmer has thought to himself, finally.
Yes.
There's a front of shirt sponsor that we can all get behind.
As he opens his fridge full of Dubai chocolate.
Full of Damac properties. Opens his fridge, just Damac properties all in the fridge.
Well, Damac have said, of course the company said, this landmark development features over 1,400 sea-facing units and a lifestyle that rivals match day energy.
Well,
Can anyone explain that to me?
Copywriters, man. Copywriters in football and also property, they just have such an easy time, don't they? Because they can just write any old shit and people go, yes, that's good enough. That is good enough.
Well, it rivals the match day energy. Have you been to Stamford Bridge recently? It probably does. Because this sounds very relaxing where it is. Expect bold design, breathtaking views, and amenities inspired by the spirit of champions.
That's what Pete says when he walks to the office every morning.
Yeah. I say, I wish I had some match day energy.
Wait, would you guys be more on board? The text and read them
Right.
through the lines here. You both aren't that on board.
How dare you?
Can I bring you more in? Can I bring you more into the DeMac tent with the following sentence?
I can't be more in if you tried.
Well, listen to this.
All right.
The real estate firm DeMac has a long-standing partnership with the businesses of US President Donald Trump.
Bring it in.
The Guardian has reported that DeMac board member and former chairman Farouk Arjamand owned a company that paid Alexander Smirnov $600,000 for telling the FBI that Hunter Biden and his father, US President Joe Biden, had engaged in a bribery scheme.
Nice.
So, listen,
It's all going off. Is that why?
if that's not on Carl Palmer's mind, I'll be very surprised.
Well, is that why Trump's reopening Alcatraz? We think, why is he reopening to? No, properties, baby. He's going to be a lot of sea viewing or sea facing units on Alcatraz.
Can I just ask a semi-serious question about DeMac? Right, I was under the impression that sponsorship is targeted towards the audience that it's marketing to, as you like.
Visit Rwanda.
Yeah. So Visit Rwanda. I'm not going to.
Wasn't that the Tories?
That's yeah, kind of.
In a way.
That's Arsenal's shirt sleeve sponsor.
Yes.
And I'm not supporting it in any way
Right.
or endorsing it because the Rwanda regime's got a lot to answer for, of course. But I do understand in principle the idea that if you want
Someone
to
visiting,
tourism,
someone might want to visit,
right?
yeah.
Because you think lots of football fans, they might want to go on holiday. Have you ever considered for Rwanda? Maybe you should,
Yeah.
right? You fucking shouldn't. But in case, in principle, you might want to. Who is this sponsorship for?
Yeah.
And that is the first thing we should be asking, because there might be some other reasons why this is happening that aren't necessarily geared towards the people watching football every day wanting to buy a luxury apartment in Dubai, which feels to me like it might be out of the reach for most football fans.
Well, it feels like a lot of these shirts sponsor just the legitimacy. A rich person wants to feel like he's part of something that he's not part of currently, and also he just wants to give Chelsea a good old shot in the arm.
And because he's seen the projections,
Yeah.
the balance sheet projections. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, Peter. I know it's a landmark development.
I know.
I'm not criticising that aspect of it. I know I can expect bold design, Marcus, as you said.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a breathtaking view right now, so I can relate to that.
Yeah.
with you
What
guys.
amenities inspired by the spirit of champions are you going to?
I've got all the amenities I need right here, right now.
It's inspired by Mark Morrison.
Is it, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Return of DeMac. Once again.
Imagine that. Imagine if Todd Bowley went, I'm top of the world at this occasion.
Do you know what? When I was at Chelsea Everton, not that long before the kickoff, a group of people who I assumed had won a competition or paid a few quid or whatever, well, it turned out the latter, were sort of herded onto the pitch,
Right.
and sort of look around. The stadium's like about full at this point.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, who the hell are this lot? You never see that.
Yeah.
It was the DeMac people.
Was it?
Was
That's what
it?
you get.
You saw them.
You get the
You saw the DeMac people.
You get the
It was a
sponsorship.
DeMac attack.
DeMac attack.
They went, DeMac attack.
And
They're,
Chelsea couldn't deal with them.
No.
They're contributing to the match day energy.
Yeah, they are.
Marcus.
The match day energy. I don't know. Where does this end? Anyway, look, if you are listening to this, buy a Ramble ticket, and for crying out loud, get a sea-facing unit at this place. There's only 1,400 of them up for grabs.
As Pete said last week on Friday, that everyone who buys a ticket for a Ramble live show is going to get a Conference League medal. Right, didn't you, Peter? You're standing by that.
Yeah, so I print them all out.
Oh, by the way, sensational effort on Jack's, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Delighted for you.
yeah.
Appreciate
Well
that.
done, mate. Absolutely. Getting rid of the reign of terror's over, finally. But I would like to say that if you do buy a luxury apartment in Dubai, if you do buy one in Dubai, you get a free Ramble live ticket.
yeah,
right.
if you want to go.
So we're doing our bit to support the back there.
Like FIFA and the Club World Cup, we decide which gig it is.
No, you have to buy. If we can do it like FIFA, you have to
right.
buy tickets for every single live show,
Right.
And then you get a free apartment that we'll choose.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we are. It all makes sense in the end. Right. Now, Nottingham Forest are down in 6th, so they've got some work to do. I think we can all agree on that. They play Crystal Palace tonight, so make sure you join Peter and Andy for a Ramble Reacts episode straight after that game tonight. What a way to finish the bank holiday weekend in style.
Squeezing all the juice out of it.
Right, we are.
It's good to just have Andy.
We did a video on YouTube where I said that Forest would get into the Champions League this season, so they really do need to do their bit.
They need to pull the socks up,
tonight.
don't they? Yeah. Coming up after this, Manchester United remind us what they're actually like. on tour, everybody. The Football Ramble time tunnel is coming to a city near you. Glasgow, Newcastle, Birmingham, Manchester and London between the 9th of May and the 17th of May. Click on the link that's just appeared in the top right-hand corner of this video and get your tickets. Don't delay. Get one today.
Who'd win in a fight, 100 men or one gorilla?
Dan Burn, mate.
Dan Burn?
Aye.
Just Dan Burn will just smash them all?
Dan Burn will smash them all.
All right, you rate Dan Burn, yeah?
I rate Dan Burn.
Thanks to friend of the Ramble, Ben Skippy, for sending us that clip on the Discord. You can become a friend of the Ramble by heading over to patreon.com/Football Ramble. Do it now.
Yeah.
Brentford 4, Manchester United 3. A predictable result or a predictable outcome. This one. I mean, Brentford, they do love hammering Manchester United. Even though Manchester United got 2 late goals, it was a pretty comprehensive victory for those bees.
Yeah, are we really fully appreciative enough of the gifts that Man United have given us this season?
I don't think we are. Well, and that's why, when I say we've updated the live show, part of it has been, a big part of it has been Manchester United.
I mean, I saw that. I appreciate that they came back and Garnacho scored a nice goal.
Lovely goal. Nice to see Mason Mount scoring as well.
Mason Mount opened the score, yeah. But,
Come on, Luke Shaw started the game.
well, I'm getting...
Am I going in the different direction
Yeah,
to
and then
you?
25 minutes later scored an own goal. But Garnacho scored a goal which we like, okay. Because, I mean, on an individual level, someone like Garnacho, who has shown a bit, you know, and he's dropped off and, you know, it's hard to judge where he's at because of the way Man United are. That type of goal he scored, similar to what, you know, Pete's talking about with Anthony, like, it's good to get a goal if you're that kind of player in that position in that way. It's a beauty. And Diallo brings him back, and obviously he's been out for a long time, so it's good for him to get one. Even
pleased to see him back,
that was a more of a fortunate one because Flecker could have probably done better. I know he was unsighted. But I flicked this on when, and I'll just see how they're getting on. They're 4-1 down against Brentford. You just think,
what's the point?
Admittedly, they've done pretty well in the Europa League, but in the Premier League, I was really struggling to remember when they last won a game in the Premier League. And that's Manchester United you're talking about.
More of an excuse with this match because they did rotate, and this is basically their youth squad. But it's good to see that they're also playing the Manchester United way.
Yes, exactly.
It was really heartening to see them come back after getting absolutely.
Were you heartened? Were you heartened?
Was that heartening?
Were you fortified?
There's a little bit of space.
Were you
in
like
my
a
heart,
cereal?
in my hard heart?
You
to be heartened, yeah.
Okay, nice.
But there's a lot of managers in the Premier League whose European adventures are very much covering up some pretty shoddy stuff, aren't there?
Well, 2.
3.
There's 2. No, Maresca, come on. They are fighting for Champions League. I mean, as I think that Stamford faithful wouldn't cry if he left.
You're absolutely entitled to your opinion about Maresca, of course. When you put him in the same bracket as them two, I think you're out of order. I think you know you're out of order for doing it.
You're being naughty and you're ramping it up before Newcastle play Chelsea on the weekend.
Yeah.
You little sausage. I mean, Manchester United, like this.
It's no longer mathematically possible for Man United to finish in the top half of the league. It's only happened twice since they were relegated, both under Sir Alex Ferguson. So look, they're playing the Alex Ferguson way.
That is cherry picking to the max. How
good was Luke Shaw's on goal? Brilliant.
Well, he nearly scored one just before that.
Don't worry, I'll get it right. I'll do it in a minute.
How offensive is it to UEFA and the rest of Europe that the Europa League final will probably be between Spurs and Man United?
I just can't.
Mid-table dross.
It's not even mid-table.
No, I'm sorry, lower mid-table.
How does that happen?
If you
that's the power of the Premier League. Sorry to keep that's the real power of the Premier League.
So if you break up the league table, and it's tricky because there's 20 teams, but say there was 21 teams.
Oh, it should be a 17 league.
You go
team.
7, 14. So 7, 7, 7. You can break it up, right? So therefore, anything below 14th kind of is not mid-table.
No, it's lower. It is lower.
Yeah, and that's Man United and Spurs. But on your Europa League point, keen to get your guys' thoughts because I was thinking about this, and it kind of got diluted a little bit when Bodo Glimt scored to make it 3-1 because I think that makes it more interesting.
It does.
Plastic pitch, Bodo Glimt have been good. Spurs aren't reliable.
Yep.
We saw how they struggled on an artificial pitch against fucking Tamworth, right? It's late in the season. They've got players out.
Yeah.
So it may not be the case. I don't think we can write it off that it's Bodo Glimt have done.
We're all aware of what could happen.
Yeah, of course. But you're right to say that it is almost like certifiably weird.
Yep.
That Spurs and United could compete because
it is extraordinary.
They have been like
shit. They've been shit.
So poor. Poor.
Yeah. At least when West Ham won the Conference League and they went on a Europa League run, they were sort of mid-table or top half. I forget where they finished exactly. But it wasn't like this.
It's weird. It's really weird.
It shows you that is the real spending power of the Premier League. It's not. You don't see it in the Champions League because in the Champions League you've got Europe's elite. You've got elite level managers and players all around the Germany, Italy, France, Spain, all the rest of it. And so when they come against Premier League sides, they match them or often better than them. In the Europa League and the Conference League is where it's most stark. But in the Europa League now, we're seeing that the spending power of the Premier League, it just trumps everybody else. Like you can spend 50, 60 million on three, on 350 million pounds. You know what I mean?
Is there a bit of luck? Is there a bit of luck on the United side though, because they whooped Real Sociedad, who went down to 10 men with like half an hour left.
Yeah, I mean, they on another day,
Athletic had a nightmare. They had an absolute nightmare.
It's ridiculous. They've shitted their way all the way through this competition. But as Andy said. Well, maybe that's what Andy said. They've just kind of been a little bit more sensible. I stress little because you saw what happened against Lyon and an amazing comeback. But the way they've just kind of slow and steady, just keep plodding away, and decisions. I don't think they've had any shocking decisions go for them. But the sending off against Athletic Bilbao, they were too up for it. If Williams scores that header to make it 1-0 early on, it's different. Blah 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 blah.
They've allowed the natural strength of the Premier League to get them through.
Yeah,
there's something in that, Pete, isn't there? Because this sounds like unscientific, but when you watch the Europa League and the Conference League, the one thing that really sticks with you, I think, is how slow it is. And I think
which is why a player like Bruno Fernandes, who's playing, I did an Andy there, Fernandes. Did you hear that? It's my bank holiday as well. Which is why when you have a player of that quality, he is going to stand out in, say, the Europa League in some of these ties, because you talk about the pace of the game, you talk about all this, the individual quality that they have shines. Whereas maybe in the cut thrust, when you've got Brentford are on the attack and are absolutely setting siege to the Manchester United penalty area, the idea of that individual quality or the system, it's just more combustible. I mean, I think, imagine if Man United were in the Champions League this season. They wouldn't have been in it very long.
Wenger wouldn't have it, would he?
Yeah, that's a funny one, isn't it? Wenger's come out and said, Arsene Wenger, we love a Wenger opinion. Post-Arsenal, he's been great value for us.
He thought, I'll just wait to see how Spurs get on that first leg.
Was it today or certainly in the last few days he said that the winner of the Europa League should not play the Champions League next season.
That's told B in Sports.
Did he?
Yeah. He was on with Keys and Gray.
Right.
He was on with Keys and Gray.
Okay.
Yeah. They must affect you.
Yeah, I think so.
Drag you down to their level. Yeah.
I think Keys injects you with some kind of hateful serum when you go on it.
Mind you, though, Wenger is coming out with some stuff, though, isn't he, post-Arsenal?
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Which I'm kind of enjoying, because we always thought he was like that mad scientist kind of vibe.
I think he's a maverick. Pete,
he's a maverick who never won a European competition, so... have a bit of that.
Would you say that Arsene Wenger's a man who likes to do his own research, Pete?
Well, no, I think he's better than that.
Is he a maverick thinker?
He's a maverick thinker. He's an out-of-the-box thinker. He's a man who smashes up the moulds when he's finished doing stuff.
So
smashes up the mould.
Is he basically just saying this as partly as a dig against Spurs, but also because he's so disappointed at how amazingly well United and Spurs have done in this competition? Because, like...
like I say,
I feel like you've earned. I feel like this kind of ersatz version of promotion and relegation between the European competitions is actually quite good. It's a big incentive.
Yeah.
Look, the Europa Conference League gets a lot of stick. It may in a few years shake it out, and it may become what it's designed to become, which is. It's not. I mean, the problem with the Conference League is you can't guard against a really big club like Chelsea having a shit domestic season and going in it. Right? If you can avoid that. There's a big argument that says it's a really good thing because it gives teams chance to play against other European nations, other European clubs. It's cool, and there's an incentive to get up through almost like a promotion relegation thing. So I do kind of think if you've won the second tier European competition,
I think you should.
You get a chance to go up there. I think that's fair enough.
But I think they should suspend it this year.
It's certainly fairer than the Champions League teams coming down, which they've stopped, which is also a good move to stop that.
Yeah.
Do you remember in the heat of COVID back in 2021, Arsene Wenger said that we need like a World Cup or a European competition every single 2 years and get rid of the Nations League. How do you feel about that opinion, Marcus Speller?
Well, I think it's piss poor, and I think he's been proved to be wrong. Hasn't he?
He was off his head on jabs.
He was
off his head.
He certainly was.
Pete, how you could even bring that up around this table, knowing the enjoyment we've all had about the Nations League.
I know. Some of our best shows.
But mentioning of the Conference League, Brentford are right in it. They are 1 point off 8th, if indeed, we always have to have that caveat, if indeed 8th is good enough for...
do you know what, Marcus? This is not a dig at you, but I'm fed up of hearing about permutations.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love just the teams just do as well as they can, win as many games as they can.
Tell us after the season.
And see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, no, but they're having a great season because there they are, a point off Bournemouth, and same as Brighton, and 1 point above Fulham, which will please them no end. I mean, Fulham again, we're looking, the top half was sort of nailed on, and now they're in 11th, so there's a tight pack of teams in there. But Brentford finishing the season very, very strongly.
Don't a lot of teams have to start qualifying in a week's time anyway? They should have sorted this out by now.
Yeah, it's like
some of the lower rounds.
Yeah. But I mean, they are when Brentford play like that, which is we've come to expect. They are a joy to watch, aren't they?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, they're great. It's particularly at home.
Yeah, particularly at home. But with Wissa up front as well. I mean, the man just kind of goes on and on.
I can't wait for Vish is a big fan, isn't it? I can't wait for I can't wait for the climb down from some of the lads on this show who were talking about how Casemiro's now really good again.
Yep.
And you, to be fair, Marcus, you fought the good fight for the banter. But then maybe those guys were right because Casemiro obviously didn't play. And
away to Brentford.
Yeah.
No. He's getting his confidence up. Don't let that happen. Yeah.
Well, it's not his fault. It's just all the players around.
Can you imagine Thomas Frank? He's thinking, I tell you what, we could be in line for 8th place. Who we got next week? Man United.
Yeah.
Love that. Rubbing his hands together, going, right, who wants a goal?
I felt sorry for Garnacho. He's got a beauty and couldn't really celebrate because they were getting pumped.
Boo-hoo. He's got
consolation celebration's a difficult one to manage, isn't it?
Oh, he's got the tape of his overhead at Goodison. Leave off.
Yeah.
Right. Now, let's go to Leicester City. They beat fellow relegated side Southampton 2-0. Jamie Vardy scored his 199th goal for the club.
Come on.
What was it? 826 minutes at home they'd gone without a goal at Leicester.
Yeah.
And Vardy was the man to finally get it.
This game between two already relegated teams had the energy of a band who've won a competition to play first at Glastonbury. It's great they're there.
Yeah.
Good on them. They've had their bit.
Yeah.
They've had their moment. Everyone's still in their tent.
Yeah.
Everyone is still... You're playing at midday on the main stage.
And I'm introducing you.
Yeah.
Pete's introducing you.
Yeah.
And the Darkness did that one year, I think, didn't they?
I think they might have won it one year.
I think they opened Glastonbury.
But the only thing of interest...
Where Pete and I met.
Yeah. The only thing of interest is that Vardy got his 199th goal.
Well, there was one of two things of interest.
He was always...
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Both related to Vardy.
He had a little blow of the referee's whistle.
He did. He knelt down and blew the referee's whistle.
Basically because Southampton were on the counter-attack.
Yes,
wasn't it?
Yes,
well, that's what he
stopped
said.
him, yeah.
I think he was just saving them. Don't exert yourselves. The referee's down.
I thought he was just doing a little Paul Gascoigne bit of fun. I thought I saw the humour in it, and then they've retconned a reason for him doing it to stop the game.
Couldn't have done that in COVID. Couldn't share a whistle.
Good point, actually. Yeah,
couldn't share a whistle in COVID.
Good point. Referee had to go off.
Could I make
it's his debut?
Can I make a point that may be construed as somewhat unfair?
Right.
I don't think he was hurt.
He's just embarrassed.
I think he was a bit embarrassed.
Do you think?
Right.
Wasn't it his debut in the top flight as well?
Yeah.
And he's gone off.
He's gone off injured
because he got
hit
nudged
in the face
by Jordan Ayew.
No, I wouldn't want to get nudged by Jordan Ayew.
If I was going to choose to get nudged by a Premier League player, I'm not saying Jordan Ayew at the top of the list.
I would say
he's in the bottom half though.
Harry Winks in Leicester.
Is he still playing though? Not really.
Van Nistelrooy's making sure he isn't.
But what I'm saying is, I might have this totally wrong, and if I have, I apologise to David Webb, his family, and the dedication he's shown to his profession over the years. But it didn't look that bad to me.
Yeah, but that's the thing though, Luke. We often see things on the pitch and we think, it doesn't look that bad, they're faking. Well, it shows you.
I didn't say faking, you've said that. I didn't say that. That would be disrespectful to a professional who's reached the very top of his level.
Join Luke and I later today on the Football Ramble YouTube channel as we'll be chatting more about Vards and where he sits among the all-time great strikers in the Premier League. Just search Football Ramble and hit subscribe so you never miss a video from us. Coming up after this, Harry Kane finally gets his hands on a trophy. That's right, everybody. Harry Kane has won the Bundesliga with Bayern Munich. In among all these celebrations, let us not forget Eric Dyer.
Yeah.
It's his first major as well.
Yeah, and I suppose that's not going to grab the headlines because of the profile of player he is, and also because there's been a mostly internet-based groundswell of lols
and love
that Kane might never win a trophy.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, know what I mean. So now I'm actually very pleased for him. It's clearly the main reason he went there. Good for him. He's been decent, of course. And that's a monkey off his back. I wouldn't like to see joking aside, I wouldn't like to see a player of that quality never win something.
When you say he's been decent, I actually think if you read Andy Brassell's article about this, which I implore anybody to do, Andy goes into detail of why he's actually loved there. And Andy thinks that Robert Lewandowski, because he played for Dortmund beforehand and the way he left, he was always courting that move to Spain.
He was for a long time.
Yeah, I think that I think that went from love to like. Whereas Harry Kane, they absolutely love him there, according to a lot of people in Germany and Andy, of course.
Because he's chosen to go there probably around his peak, maybe?
Well, there's that, but also the way he handles himself on and off the pitch. I think that he puts the effort in off the pitch, which is something we don't really see.
I wonder if he's seen as like a classic English gentleman.
Well, he is. I mean, one of the articles was they reference him. There's a sort of a James Bond sort of aura about him.
You're being very silly.
I'm sitting here twitching, waiting for Pete to say something. Marcus has just compared Harry Kane to James Bond. You're going to sit there.
I haven't compared. I'm saying that's what the reporting says.
The David Niven James Bond.
Fine, but there's
Basil Bond from Russ Abbott's TV show of the 90s.
Surely you're liking Russ Abbott being mentioned.
I am.
Yeah.
There's a sort of a refined English gent vibe about him.
If Les Dennis played James Bond,
yes,
he's like that.
No,
Lazenby. It's yours, Lazenby.
You're getting to but I think whatever, we can leave the James Bond stuff. I think with Harry Kane, he has because Bayern sometimes it can be quite hectic there. Sometimes we don't really realise that a lot of chat and a lot of fallings out and so on and so forth. And Kane is the type of guy who always seems to rise above that because he never gets involved in it. Certainly publicly, privately we don't know, but there's very few reports. And so the way he handles himself is a reasonably dignified manner. I think that would be fair to say. Again, I don't know the guy. I don't know what happens behind closed doors. But he's gone over there. He's scored an absolute hatful of goals.
Yeah.
But, just amazing stuff. He's fitted into the team well. We thought that he would fit in well with the wingers like Musiala to feed them and so on. And he's elevated them. You have to remember the context of it. So when he goes there, Tuchel's obviously the Bayern manager. They don't win the league. They have a good showing in the Champions League, but they go out and
people are having more lols.
They were. So the start of the summer, Bayern are looking for a new manager because it became apparent that Tuchel wasn't going to stay. What company was fifth or sixth choice or something like that on the list? They were literally like, who's going to manage this team? It was it was an amazing set of events, and everyone was thinking, bloody hell. Kane's the first guy to go there. Bayern don't win the title in how many years? Are they going to go on a drought? This is crazy. Company comes in from relegated Burnley, is now in charge. They start playing well. Obviously, Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen, have been good. They haven't quite kept the pace, but they've still had an all right season. And Kane's there, again, just going about his business. The one consistent for Bayern was Kane scoring loads and loads of goals and helping to elevate his teammates' status.
He's got like 89 goals already.
Which is extraordinary. Like the amount of goal involvements, as we say, and so on nowadays. So actually, this does mean something. And I think for Kane as well, it's not just winning that medal. It's going to an elite club and being around that environment. Because he'll have loved this. Obviously, you get the medal and that kind of justifies it. But to go there, where at Spurs, where it's, okay, they had Champions League final, good times, but to go to a club where you'll feel like you're at the biggest club in the world, or certainly one of them, in that environment with all those types of players, regularly going into the latter stage of the Champions League, to live that and to have that is fitting of him. Do you see what I mean? It's fitting of the player. But winning that medal now separates him from the other great
nearly
players. Men. Well, the other nearly men who were great players. But there's not many of them. I mean, Giuseppe Signori, for those who remember, scored a hatful of goals and he was one of them. You're grasping at straws, maybe Antonio Di Natale, but he never played for a sort of top level club. Yeah. So he was kind of really on his own in that. But the bracket. And now he's got it. I genuinely am delighted.
I'm pleased for him too. But the only counterpoint is that he realistically,
yes,
the size of club that Bayern Munich are, they eat everything else for breakfast.
Yeah.
There's an occasional anomaly. You want to talk about Leverkusen and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For the years and years before that, Bayern Munich won it every year.
But if he went there and didn't contribute, or he was okay.
No, sure, but that was never going to happen because he's still.
But the fact is, he earned his move to go to one of those sides who do eat everything up. I mean, Jude Bellingham's already won a Champions League because at Real Madrid you're just going to go and win one. Obviously, a little bit different. I understand that, but the fact is, you earn your move, and you're pleased when Kane goes to Bayern because you think, yeah, he deserved to be in that environment. rather than having all this kind of stuff.
I don't think anything you're saying is controversial there.
Right.
The only thing I'm adding is just that he.
Word on Eric Dyer, please.
Great to have him along for the ride as well.
By my calculations, an average of 60-odd minutes across 19 matches in the Bundesliga. He played 32, so he's not. You wouldn't say he's nailed down his position unless he's been injured.
No, he was a backup, but he actually has been quite well respected. And again, they've kind of like what he's doing. And all I'm saying is,
Do they always write?
do we need World Cup? Come on,
What?
they're both winners now.
You can't just say World Cup.
Okay,
It's World Cup.
I think.
All I was going to say was just
Get him on the plane.
it's quite calculated to go to Bayern Munich, but there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's a good calculation.
Yeah, yeah.
Well done on your calculation, Eric.
I love it though, but like
Great,
they
great
paid
process, mate.
the enormous fee they paid for him. When you say it's quite calculated, it's not like he's.
I mean, he could have gone probably not anywhere, but he had a load of choice to go.
I don't think he did.
All right.
But anyway, I'm giving him credit, even if others aren't.
I wasn't. I just
others.
I wasn't expecting like a 5-minute monologue about Harry Kane winning the title at Bayern Munich because he won the title at Bayern Munich because of course he was going to win it at Bayern Munich at some point.
But he did it in the most Harry Kane way for the last match when they were expected to win. He came down to the side of the pitch and then the other team equalised and they didn't win.
I know.
So he won it in the right way, an English way.
Exactly.
Thank you.
There we go, you see.
He looked like Neymar on the sideline.
Yeah.
Mouth agog.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. Right, gentlemen, let's come back to good old England and to the Championship where Leeds United won the title thanks to a very late winner from Manor Solomon. They beat Wayne Rooney's old team, Plymouth Argyle, 2-1. And Solomon, pleased for Solomon. He's had... And I'm glad he got the goal and he helped them win the league title because a few years ago he's rushed out of Ukraine, obviously playing for Shakhtar, doesn't he? He plays, goes to Fulham. It was actually a loan deal. Terrible injury, manages to kind of get up to speed, scores a few goals, gets a move to Spurs, doesn't play that much, goes to Leeds. Well, he's enjoyed a fine season with Leeds United.
It's been important.
39 matches. Now that's a season.
That's
a league season.
That's a season, Peter. We can all agree on that. And Burnley and Leeds getting 100 points in the Championship, which is crazy. Sheffield United third with 90. When Fulham went up a few seasons ago, they got 90 points.
Yeah.
And were seen, rightly so, as the outstanding team. Because
I've never seen two teams get 100 points before. I don't think that's ever happened before.
Well, Reading were the
No, two teams.
Oh, two teams, yeah, quite possibly not.
In the same division. That's crazy. I've never seen it before.
Gutting for Burnley that they didn't win the league, of course, with that late goal. But, the man on loan from Spurs, Manor Solomon, thought, no, we're going to win it today.
At one point, I'm sure, because it was chaotic in the final day of the Championship, as it tends to be, I think I'm right in saying at one point, if Plymouth had just scored 14 goals against Leeds, they would have stayed up.
Yeah.
They didn't do that.
No.
They decided against doing that. They didn't even go, let's score 7 and see if they shit themselves.
That's right.
They ended up getting beat in the last minute, which is disappointing for them. It was a great final day. I watched the Portsmouth game against Hull.
Why?
Because I just wanted to bask in the idea that Portsmouth could play a role in it, but they weren't going to get relegated themselves.
Lucky for Hull, they didn't go down.
They didn't because Portsmouth were quite shit, which again is probably fairly predictable given they got nothing to play for.
Charitable.
They went a goal behind against Hull as well at home.
The stakes.
I know. I enjoyed it, Marcus.
Yeah, I know you did, yeah.
We can't all just get our sustenance from Harry Kane lifting a Bundesliga trophy, can we, Pete? We got
a little plastic trophy out in Germany. Unbelievable.
Some of us enjoy Portsmouth as one of the fruits of the spirit.
Some of you do. Fruits of the spirit. Oh, goodness.
It's a fruit of my spirit.
Right.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that, eh?
Not correct, Lukey. You said chomping at the bit earlier. He didn't correct you.
Champing is the word, not
so
chomping.
I was expecting an interjection, but it never came.
Horses champ, they don't chomp.
Well,
it doesn't make any sense.
Where I'm from.
I know, it doesn't make any sense.
Horses should chomp. Why can't we just teach a horse to chomp?
All right, a horse was curly-whirling at the bit. For goodness sake.
Sounds like a sex move. You made it sound dirty.
Well, look, the good news, though, for Burnley was that Natasha Bedingfield came and had a sing-song with the boys, which I think is better than a league trophy.
Massively.
It was, I mean, the red thing says it was in the changing room. It looked like it was on the pitch.
It was on the pitch.
And then in the drain.
Spilled out.
Yeah, exactly.
Start on the pitch.
Yeah.
Are you enjoying it?
Yeah.
Then we'll carry it on.
In the words of her brother, we had to get through this and onto the pitch.
Yeah.
Do you not think that Natasha Bedingfield's voice has never sounded better?
I thought she sounded great.
She's gone a bit Miley Cyrus, where her voice has gotten more gruff and better as a result. Smoke more fags, Natasha Bedingfield.
It was good to see her.
It's good to see her.
And because Burnley have been playing that song for, I think, most of the season, or if not all of the season. It's funny, isn't it, sometimes when a football team latches onto a song and you think, I wouldn't have thought of that.
No,
maybe I'm a bit old-fashioned with my thinking, because I would think, well, I don't know what I would think, I, the Tiger. No, but do you know what I mean? Like some of these pop... Which team was it that was singing Adele that time?
Yeah,
Forget which it
I
was.
remember
But even
it.
in England in the Euros, was singing
Somebody that I used to know.
Somebody that I used to know all around.
Yeah,
there's slightly odd ones.
I mean, I guess the Bedingfield thing unwritten is just because they're probably just tapping into the lyrics, aren't they?
Maybe.
But you don't really see Bedingfield have a hit these days.
No.
She's had one top 10 in the last 15 years or
But
something.
she's one of the few artists to crack America.
Also, really?
Yeah, you hear it all the time out there.
Do you really? That's surprising.
I heard it twice when I was in Vegas.
she just packed out Turf Moor.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're just making the calculation. If we make this song our one,
It's going to be cheaper than
at the end of the season. She'll definitely be available.
Yes, good point. Actually, yeah.
If you were gonna make one of your songs, a Beyonce song.
Yeah.
Mind you, she's on the Cowboy Carter tour. She might be in town, but generally speaking, she's not going to want to come to Burnley to do a little bit at the end of the season, is she?
Yeah, if you said you can sing to a packed out Turf Moor, I think.
Could Leeds
That might swing it for her.
Yeah.
Could Leeds get Kaiser Chiefs? Yes, of course they could.
Yeah, no, they're not doing anything.
No, they're not doing
Even
anything.
though Ricky Wilson has branched out and done his own thing for a while,
Ricky.
even that's fallen fairly flat, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So he'd definitely be available, I think.
My heart
I think it's got
to see that man.
I think it's got to I think it's got to the point now where Ricky Wilson could offer to sing at Elland Road after Leeds won the league, and Leeds might well say no. I think his star
It's not that kind of party.
Doesn't have to be a local artist, as Natasha proved.
Right,
That's a good
absolutely.
point, actually.
You just got to be synonymous
Where are the
with the club.
Bedingfields from?
Exactly.
They're from.
Marcus, Pete's checking with the Bedingfield.
Okay,
Do you want to move on?
VAR, good process. She's a British New Zealand singer. She was born in Haywards Heath.
There we go.
So there we
Beautiful Sussex.
There you are,
Lovely
Sussex.
part of the world, actually.
Speaking of those also from the south, Frank Lampard and his Coventry made it through to the playoffs after a 2-0 win against Michael Carrick's Middlesbrough.
I like it.
Good for Frank. He's done all right there at Coventry.
Steady.
I think they were 2 points off relegation when he came in.
They were.
So brilliant effort.
It's a good effort, yeah. So he was delighted. Nice to see Frank happy, isn't it, Peter?
I'd love him to be like a Warnock man, like a championship specialist.
Yeah.
He's kind of getting that way.
But swear blind that he can do it at the top table.
And
but
then just not do it.
And not do it.
Yeah.
Or not even get the opportunity to.
Well, why bother? I know I can
Yeah.
do it, so sod off.
They started really poorly against Borough. They could have gone behind a few times.
And Middlesbrough obviously playing for players
Same.
themselves.
Yeah.
Carrick sounded so downbeat after.
Yeah, I can see why. Because I think if Middlesbrough had beaten Coventry, they'd have finished above them. It
Yeah.
was very close. And
Yeah.
Ben Wilson, who Lampard put back in goal, made some brilliant saves. Speaking of a final day chaos, it was. That game probably typified it. It was all over the place. They really rode their luck early on, Coventry. They're playing Sunderland in the playoffs now, and they beat them heavily at home, and they drew with them at the Stadium of Light. And Sunderland, they're in really poor form.
Stinking run.
Yeah, really poor form.
5 losses on the
you
bells.
wouldn't bet against Coventry getting to the playoff final now, which is really interesting. And I also think there's something in talking about championship specialism and stuff like that. I do think there's something tremendously powerful in having someone like Lampard, who clearly has shown himself that he really good at certain aspects of coaching.
Yeah.
With such a massive profile, such an amazing amount of experience, like genuinely one of the best midfielders England's ever produced.
Yeah.
Going in at that level that's slightly below the elite, you can see why the players would really buy into
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
The way he conducts himself, the way he carries himself as well. I wonder whether maybe over time with experience, he will kind of graduate to the very top level of management. But at the moment, it just seems like a nice fit.
I know what you mean. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. So yes, I could imagine Chris Wilder looking over at him if the two of them get to the playoff final, thinking, "Look at that flash Londoner, eh?
Yeah.
Come on."
Typical London lefty. Even though we know Lampard famously votes Tory. But Wilder wouldn't do his antics against Lampard because he'd respect him too much.
Do you think?
I think he looks at Lampard and goes, "There's a beautiful British young man," and he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't get up to his antics. I don't think he would.
I think if Coventry scored an important goal and Lampard's raising his fist in the air, Wilder would be.
Well,
if you're Frank Lampard, I mean, look, we're assuming those two. Whoever's facing Chris Wilder, in the playoffs, get a sandwich out, get in his head, and you'll be away.
let me ask it another way then.
All right.
Okay. When Wilder got up to those antics against Plymouth because he was arrogant and they got humbled.
Yes.
Would he have done those antics where he's like sarcastically clapping the players off down the
if Wazza
tunnel
was there?
if Wayne Rooney was a manager?
No,
I don't
because
think he
of
would.
a fear of getting your head caved in. That's why. That's
Wayne Rooney would
absolutely
end
right.
him.
I've just been looking at the League One, League Two, League and the Championship, and Sunderland have got. They've not won a match in 6. They've not even drawn one. In 5. And Morecambe at the foot of EFL League 2 are the only other team who have lost their last 5 matches, and they are at the bottom of the table. Like,
That shows
what
you
are
the
Sunderland
form.
doing?
Yeah.
Stick the boot in.
Silly
Peter.
Billies.
Luton Town, of course, suffered a second successive relegation after losing 5-3 at West Brom. Portsmouth could have saved Luton if they'd have beaten Hull. They didn't.
Shouldn't be up to us, though, should it?
No.
Shouldn't be up to Pompey. Shouldn't be down to them.
But the league table will always have relegation, Luke.
Yeah, but let me tell
Someone
you
has
something
to take the flak for Luton going down, and it's Portsmouth.
As someone who has supported that club for as long as I have, we're probably should have given you this advice before the weekend. Do not rely on them for anything.
No,
if you're going to the final day, relying on Portsmouth to do you a favour, you're fucked.
Yep.
You're absolutely Donald Ducked. You really are. And back-to-back relegation for Luton is a terrible story.
It is, and it's a warning, isn't it? For the clubs who are going down, Southampton.
I mean, God, imagine it.
But Rob Edwards, who was the darling of the Premier League in a way,
Just because he's so handsome.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he was singing Bon Jovi in the town square.
Yeah.
And now look, he was sacked in January, of course. To a terrible first half of the season. They've been relegated again. They're down in League One.
Yeah, and Matt Bloomfield going there is an interesting one because, I mean, he's a legend at Wycombe, right? So he was manager at Wycombe after playing for them for years and years and years. Named totally synonymous with them as a club. They were keeping pace with Birmingham in League One when he was there.
Yeah.
I think they're a few points off Birmingham in second. Birmingham have had a record-breaking season, astonishing amount of points. He's tempted to go to Luton when Luton are already in the relegation zone and diabolical. I guess there's money involved in that decision, and I guess the ceiling for Wycombe is probably where they are now because we've seen them in the Championship. They found it really, really tough. I think they were before that Championship season started, they were like the shortest odds a team in history has ever been.
But I think people often misunderstand or underplay the League One to Championship step up.
Maybe
because you're always focused on Championship to Premier League, which is why when we talked about Wrexham on the mailbag, I think financially it is a big step.
Well, it's going to be really interesting next season. Birmingham have traditionally been able to sustain that.
Birmingham set a new world record for a points total in a fully professional league, 111. Stunning.
Mad. It's absolutely
stunningly
mad.
good.
But just going back to Luton very quickly, their ceiling is clearly higher than Wycombe. I think they've got a new stadium on the way as well. So, I mean, Bloomfield's going to find himself right back where he started, just at a different club that he's not synonymous with. So it's an interesting thing to see how that develops. The League One up to Championship is fascinating. Birmingham have been brilliant. They've sustained themselves as a second tier club easily in the past, right? It's a bit of a disaster they're in the third tier anyway. Wrexham, I get it what you're saying, but you never know. I mean,
of course.
They're funded, they've got an amazing groundswell of support, amazing momentum. And then you've got the teams coming. The Championship's going to be even more competitive next season than it has been this season, I think, which is interesting.
There's going to be loads of eyes on it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Loads of eyes, mate.
That's the thing, isn't it? For all the criticism of what's happening at Wrexham, and I think it's a bit more nuanced than a lot of people say, I mean, having Wrexham in the Championship next season is going to make it an even more popular league than it is anyway. And it's already, the fifth most popular in Europe.
Something like that.
Yeah, so good stuff. I love the scenes at Bradford as well, by the way. I'd love to know how they've got the game back going again because it was absolute
I don't know
end
how
of day
you control
stuff.
that situation.
Oh man, promoted to League One, of course. So again, it is crazy to think that Bradford were down in League Two for so long, but there they are.
And the story is that they went very close to mucking it up. They went 4 games without winning at a crucial point. They had to win on the final day to stay in those automatic promotion places, and they scored in like 30 seconds to go with a really flaky deflected goal, and the fans went mad.
Yeah,
the game was still happening, and the fans were all on the pitch.
Oh man, it was superb.
Great scene.
Mind you, when I'm guilty of this. You know, when you think, I can't believe that size of club is down there, and it's like, there's a lot of big clubs in England. Do you know what I mean? A lot of clubs have gone up to the Championship.
Well, I mean, York was a stalwart.
And the football league is absolutely fucked. Like, I mean, any team that's not in the Premier League can essentially befall a real bad financial situation, and before they know it, can be right down there. You know, you look at Portsmouth are in Championship, finished like lower mid-table this season. They were like very, very close to dropping entirely out the Football League. Yeah. After being the Premier League. I mean, I don't know, I haven't looked at the numbers, but it would probably be the fastest decline from Premier League top flight to out of the league.
Which is why it's even more important to enjoy those moments.
Absolutely.
Fans.
Absolutely.
Or write letters to Seinfeld or some other celebrities that might be able to help you out financially.
Yeah.
Before we go, gents, I'm not having Trent Alexander-Arnold announcing that he's leaving Liverpool at the end of the season on a bank holiday Monday when we're going to be leaving this show right now. We fall foul of this so many times.
Has he announced this now?
He's announced it.
On a bank holiday?
Announced it on a bank holiday.
Oh my goodness.
And you wouldn't be hearing about this on this show, but I've been on the BBC website and he's done it there. So he didn't get away with it. He didn't pull a fast one on us. We're not coming back in the studio in 5 minutes' time to react to it. Trent Alexander-Arnold, he's leaving the club at the end of the season. He's been there for 20 years, inexplicably. He's 26 and he's been there for 20 years. That's insanity. So fuck you, Trent. Glad to see the back of you.
You little rat.
Little rat trying to trick us.
Do you know what I think is disrespectful?
Right.
When you think of that city and the hard-working people there, and he waits till a bank holiday when they're enjoying a beer, probably.
Exactly. To upset them.
And they will be enjoying a beer at 10:30. And on their day off, he's chosen today to announce it. I am sickened. Absolutely sickened to my core.
Yeah.
Unless he fancies a little move down to the Championship. Then I'll forgive him.
Yeah. I thought I'd seen just about everything.
It's extraordinary, Des.
Extraordinary.